ever since I've been in the United States, or even before that, I see the small, and I call them small, but it's a series of breakthroughs upon breakthroughs. And that story was the turning point in my life as a student, as an international student here. Because not only did my parents save a ton of money in, feeding and all of, allowances and things like that, they groomed me to become the woman that I am.
I hope every American that's listening to this podcast today hears they don't want anything from you. They want what you were born into. That simply because they were born in a different location, they are being treated in a way that God never intended for his children to be treated. And I would say to my students, do you understand that they're willing to die, to risk prosecution, to just get a bite of what you eat every day? Are you missing that part of the story? They aren't coming over here as the story that we're being told, folks, in the media, that they want to devour and take. And sure, there are people that have come here and have done terrible things.
Right.
But there are people that live here that have done terrible things.
Right.
But that's not the story. You're the story. You're the story. You are an outward representation of the breakthrough that is called the United States of America. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us for another episode of The Power of One. I'm joined today with a very dear friend of mine, Victoria, and I'll let her do all the introductions here in just a second. But thank you for joining us, and we're going to jump right into it. Victoria?
Hi.
Tell us all about yourself. Tell the lovely people watching all about yourself.
Thank you for having me on your podcast.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. My name is Victoria Udekumaya, and I am the founder of Lim Studios. We have a content space in Castleton, Indiana, and also our firm is a creative marketing agency. We help small business owners and entrepreneurs build their brand, generate leads, and build a legacy.
Love it.
Thank you.
And let's be very clear, we are sitting in your space.
Yes,
Victoria produces our podcast. So all of this that you're watching out on social media, don't look at the camera and expect that I'm doing any of that. I sit here, I talk, and Victoria puts all that together. So this series was called The Power of One, and I'm going to say this every single guest today. I let go of a little bit of control with this in that I didn't make each guest tell me exactly what they're going to talk about because I thought this topic was one that was really the Lord driven. And so I thought, I'll let the Lord drive it. So the power of one what for you?
Of one breakthrough.
Okay.
So this started several years ago. It's basically the story of how I came to the United States and how
I don't think I know that story.
Oh, wow, you're going to hear it today. Oh, my God. I feel like it's a series of breakthroughs, but it started with the first one. My parents were looking for me to come to the United States to come study. I was 17 at the time, and we met a family friend, who basically just kind of encouraged my parents, kind of like we said in a previous podcast, that one conversation.
Yeah,
you should listen to that too if you haven't.
Yeah, they should listen to that one. Yeah.
And so they had a conversation, and she was like, yeah, let's do it. Like, whatever it needs to take, anyway. So that was the first one. And so for me.
When you were 17?
Yeah, when I was 17, I had my application turned in. I got accepted. I came to the United States, and I was it was in a computer lab on this very day, fateful day, and a man, well, I have to say that I was in Hawaii. Now, Hawaii is like 2 days journey from Nigeria. And time difference is at least, I think it was like 13 hours or so. So very far away for any 17-year-old, right? So I was in a computer lab on this day, and there was a gentleman that came into the lab. And I have to also say that there was not a lot of Nigerians in Hawaii. But we did have a few military people that, with military, you get moved around. And so this guy happened to be a Nigerian. He's in the Navy. He came into the computer lab, coming to look for somebody else. But the guy in front of the computer lab couldn't find the person and said, I know somebody else that could, we could talk to. So he came to get me, and I just, we interacted. I said, I'll pass on the information. This other person was also a student. Well, they took a liking to me, they're a couple. And so we kind of started, sometimes I would go spend the, weekend in their house. They would, anyway, this is me in school, having no family around. I met this Nigerian, couple, and they, just took a liking, and they would do whatever, to support me.
Sure.
Thanks so much for joining the Tools for Success podcast. Every school faces challenges, things like disengaged students, overwhelmed teachers, and leaders stretched far too thin. At Tools for Success, we've been there too. Our team of licensed administrators and former teachers partner with schools to turn those challenges into growth. Through tailored professional development, we help teachers build confidence, leaders feel supported, and students thrive. Because at the end of the day, student success is what matters most. It starts with just one conversation. Schedule your complimentary consultation at toolsforsuccessindy.com. Now, back to our podcast.
It was time for them to go back to Nigeria. They met my parents. So I introduced my parents to them. They were going to visit to bring their own kids back home to America. And so they met my parents, and my parents, it was instant love. And my parents did everything that they could to, be a good host to them. They came back thinking, well, Victoria is, she's a student, she's, barely getting by, and at the time, well, I was paying international student fee, which is not an in-state tuition, it's not an out-of-state tuition, it's an international student school,
Wow.
tuition. So you can imagine the expense it is for my parents, and then we have to also pay for living and things like that. We knew that was about, it was just what we had to pay. They came back and they said, we would love for you to move into our home. At this time, I was already in my second year. We'd love for you to come into our home, and we would love for you to just be a part of our family. And at that time, they were doing everything that they could to help me become a citizen even, But I say this as a turning point in my life because although I could go back and say even when I got my visa was my breakthrough moment, because even there's a story behind that. I don't know if we have enough time to talk about that. But I say that because ever since I've been in the United States, or even before that, I see the small, and I call them small, but it's a series of breakthroughs upon breakthroughs. And that story was the turning point in my life as a student, as an international student here. Because not only did my parents save a ton of money in, feeding and all of, allowances and things like that, they groomed me to become the woman that I am. Because at that time this couple, I didn't have the oversight, like the adult oversight. I was barely, an adult at the
17,
time.
right.
Yeah. And my parents believed in, they've done everything that they could to pour into me. So it was time for me to now live my life, in a foreign land. But I still needed that guidance. Who doesn't at 18, even on 19, So
regardless of what an 18-year-old thinks, they do still need that guidance.
Right. So for me, and I'm so thankful for that moment that this couple came in to ask the question, looking for somebody else, and the guy thought to come ask me, and that relationship formed. And now, I am so grateful. But if I could go back a little bit about how I even got my visa to come to the United States. That's a story of its own, and a breakthrough too. So what had happened was that they tell us that you have to be in the very front of the line because there's like thousands of people waiting to get a visa to come to the United States.
Really?
Yeah. And I remember my dad and I driving very early, I think it was like 4 a.m.
I have to pause you. I was a teacher, for 20 years. And I taught in a very not culturally exposed community. Is that a nice political correct way of saying that? That they all looked alike, they all seemed alike. And I can remember, and I taught Spanish, and I can remember them saying to me, and what you just said just hit me. I don't understand why they, if they're going to come to America, gosh, I could just hear this in even our nation today. They ought to speak English, they ought to be like us, they ought to, or just go back to where they come from. And I want you to go to what you just said. They were standing in lines, trying to get visas to come here. Yeah. I hope every American that's listening to this podcast today hears they don't want anything from you. They want what you were born into. That simply because they were born in a different location, they are being treated in a way that God never intended for his children to be treated.
Thanks for listening to Tools for Success podcast. What if 1 minute could change your day? A Gentle Walk, the new faith-based journal by our founder, Cathy Tooley, offers one prompt, one prayer, one small step closer to God. Start your Gentle Walk today. Learn more and get your copy by visiting Warren Publishing in the link below. Now back to the podcast.
And they are willing to drown in boats, stand in lines. And we as Americans, have become so polarized that you're taking something from us. And I want everyone to hear the dichotomy. I'm writing you a check for this podcast. It's not the other way around. I didn't take anything from you. But because you're here, this podcast is here. And the Lord just called me to stop it. I don't want it lost. In the divisiveness of our nature, that what brought you here was love. Your parents loved you, and they wanted more for you than this is nothing disrespectful to Nigeria. That has nothing to do with Nigeria. It is that your parents saw an opportunity and wanted something different for their daughter, whom they loved. And were therefore willing to go stand in a line to get a visa and send her hundreds of miles away from where they knew she was safe to a place where they knew she would have more opportunities. So she could be sitting here today as a producer of my podcast. That is not lost, and I don't want that moment grazed over. And I know that you have a story with the visa, and and I apologize if I interrupted that, but the breakthrough to me is the fact that you're sitting here. And I want everyone that's listening to this podcast to understand, Victoria, if you cut her, she bleeds like I do. I promise anatomically, as a woman, she's built like I am. That while the color of our skin looks different, what beats the vessel that creates a heart and all of the scientific stuff that makes our bodies do what they do is the same. The only difference between you and I is that I was blessed enough to be born in the United States of America, and you weren't. But because parents loved you, because God loved you, and he knew he had a purpose for you, that all the visas and the families and the love that continued through put you here today. And I don't know if that's the intention that the Lord has planned for this episode, but in a world called my home, called the United States of America, that is your home, that is so divisive, I think that's the story. The breakthrough is love. Yeah. So finish your story about the visa.
No, I don't even feel like, I feel like, I believe that's the lesson here, because you said so much in that I think we forget that the breakthrough is love, like you said.
That's it.
That's it.
It started with two people who gave birth to a beautiful baby girl whom I'm sure doted and were ridiculous with her and spoiled her and did all the things. But and people want to, and I know that there are people that are going to watch this video and think, well, but they, she could have gone to school anywhere in Nigeria. You're right, you could have, but that wasn't God's purpose for your life.
Yeah.
And what if I used to say to my students this full circle moment that I just felt, which is, I would look at them and, I would hear things like, I'm so tired of walking into a filling station. They can't speak English. And by golly, if they're in America, they ought to speak English and they ought to walk like us and talk like us. And who said so?
Wow.
Who said so? And I would say to my students, Do you understand that they're willing to die, to risk prosecution, to just get a bite of what you eat every day? Are you missing that part of the story? They aren't coming over here as the story that we're being told, folks, in the media, that they want to devour and take. And sure, there are people that have come here and have done terrible things.
Right.
But there are people that live here that have done terrible things.
Right.
But that's not the story. You're the story. You're the story. You are an outward representation of the breakthrough that is called the United States of America.
Thanks for being a part of the Tools for Success podcast. At Tools for Success, we believe every student deserves a classroom where learning thrives. That's why we partner with schools to equip teachers and administrators with practical, research-based professional development that makes a real difference. From mastering classroom management to building data-driven strategies, our programs empower educators with tools and confidence to transform challenges into success. The result? Engaged teachers, supported leaders, and students who are prepared for the future. It starts with one conversation. So let's chat. Go to toolsforsuccessindy.com and click on Schedule Conversation, and let's see what we can do to help your students thrive. Now, back to our podcast.
And I think that in this theme of the power of one, I see many breakthroughs, not just in my life, but the ripple effect. I keep going back to it.
That you need to go back and watch the first season. It was so good.
Yes.
Okay.
But the ripple effect of that one conversation you have with whomever, wherever they're from.
Right, because your parents didn't just wake up one day and decide to ship you off to America.
Right.
They had to have some kind of breakthrough to let their baby girl because I don't care what anyone watching this podcast, a 17-year-old's a baby.
I mean, I've never been on a plane at that time.
Right.
I'd never been,
And you weren't flying 20 minutes.
I was flying several hours.
Far from everything you knew in security and safety.
Yeah. So
To a risk that you didn't know that put you here today.
Right.
That God is good.
All the time.
All the time.
All the time.
All the
So-
time. Wow. Okay, I don't know that there is much else for us to say.
Yeah. I don't think so either. I feel like, I know we had a podcast where we were talking about the conversation, the power of one conversation.
Yeah.
But,
Victoria's on another episode. You'll have to catch it, The Power of One Conversation.
right, but what it's like, the breakthrough led to another breakthrough, not just for me,
Right.
but for everybody else that I've encountered in my life.
And how many other people are you going to meet that look like you, that sound like you? Because I can never be you.
Right.
I can't speak to those people like you can. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean you people. We look different.
Right.
We look different. I can't speak to them because I don't have the credibility. I don't sound like you. I listen to you speak and think, I want an accent. I say that all the time. That's a running joke. Go to Kentucky and I just listen to them speak and think, I want an accent. And they say, well, I have one. I don't have one. But I listen to you speak and think, I will never sound like you. I will never look like you.
And it's okay.
That's right.
Because we all have assignments for different things in life.
I'm going to provide people different breakthroughs because my come from.
Right.
And you're going to provide completely different breakthroughs because of yours.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that this second season is definitely a very powerful one. The theme, I'm like a power of one.
I do
because
too.
I see
The Lord
ripple-
said that. That is
Yeah.
not mine. So
Right. The ripple effect of that one breakthrough leading to other breakthrough. When you were talking about, people complaining about what they see at the, gas station and all the things like that. But here's the thing, even that one interaction
That's it.
is a breakthrough. They might not see it now.
that's it.
But that conversation or whatever had happened
That's it.
would lead to something else and lead to something
Think
else.
of the breakthrough you made to that family. You made a difference in their life. I guarantee it.
I mean, they made a difference in my life too, it's vice versa, and so many other people and how we're sitting here.
That would have never happened
Right,
had you not stood in that line
right.
to get that visa to be sitting here today. So I just feel compelled to say a couple of things as we wrap this up. I wonder, for those of you watching this podcast today, what was your breakthrough moment? And most importantly, because I think it's one thing to recognize it, but I think it's a completely different thing. to go back to that person.
Yeah.
You said that couple has become an integral part of your life.
Absolutely.
They're woven into the story that is Victoria.
There's no way I could tell my story without telling of their involvement for
That's right.
several years in my life. And I'm so grateful for that.
And I wonder, we're all looking for, I say this all the time, I've said this on podcasts before, that we all think it has to be some great, big, grandiose. I don't have as cool of a story.
Mm-hmm.
I never stood in a line to get a visa. Mm-hmm. I just was born, lucky enough to be born here. My children never stood in a line to get a visa. But I promise you that there's been a breakthrough.
Yeah.
Somewhere, someplace, sometime. So thank you. Thank you for being so vulnerable and honest, because I tell you, I think that you and I show the power of one,
Yes.
and that is the one of Jesus Christ.
Yes.
You and I have completely different come-froms.
Mm-hmm.
Our lives in many ways will never be the same. But Jesus is the commonality that exists.
It's a common thread.
It's a common thread. And so I want to thank you for being willing to come on, share a very vulnerable story.
Thank you.
And to be so honest with us.
Yeah.
I will be grateful.
Thank you so much
Forever
for
I will be
having me.
grateful. So thank you to everyone for tuning in. We're going to continue an entire series of The Power of One with lots of guests. So join us and please take away from these podcasts, lift the conversation into your life. Take the conversation into where you're being called. And thanks for joining us.
Yeah.